200 years ago, if you wanted to cross the state of Pennsylvania, you needed grit and determination. You could go by foot, following the river valleys and crossing over the Alleghenies at their lowest point, or you could climb aboard a stagecoach for one bumpy, dusty ride. In the early 1800s, the trip took about 4.5 days by rail car and canal boat. Then, the Pennsylvania Railroad chugged along and connected the East and the West. Passengers could now travel the entire route by train in under 20 hours. And that's how things stood for many years, until the 1930s. Automobiles had become the most popular way to travel, which meant there was an increased need for hard-surfaced roads. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Lincoln Highway, also known as Route 30, became the first paved highway across the state. But there were a few drawbacks. Since the highway passed through small communities, there was constant stop-and-go traffic. Route 30 would likely have been the only highway across the southern half of the state for several years, except for one major event, the Great Depression. In 1934, with people out of work and hungry for jobs, President Roosevelt established a series of federally funded jobs programs under the banner, the New Deal. With the promise of federal money, members of the Pennsylvania State Planning Board came up with an idea to put a small army of workers back on a payroll. They would build a new toll road. The proposal involved using an abandoned railroad bed and tunnels out west. Momentum for the idea quickly picked up steam. Newspapers touted the weatherproof tunnel highway and the forget the weather highway. In short order, engineering surveys and cost estimates were ordered. Pennsylvania Governor George Earl decided to create a new agency whose job would be to construct, finance, operate, and maintain toll highways in the state. In 1937, he signed a bill creating the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. The commission's first job turned out to be its biggest: build the country's first superhighway, the road we call the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Before a single shovel could hit dirt, financing had to be worked out. It was a bigger hurdle than anyone expected. Private investors who had never heard of a toll road and had no idea if it could pay for itself had little enthusiasm for the project. That meant all of the financing had to come from the federal government. But along with the funding, there was a condition attached. The highway had to be finished by June 1940. The commission had exactly 20 months to get the road built. It was a scramble from the start. Groundbreaking took place 2 weeks after the financing was arranged. By then, the commission had hired 155 construction companies and 15,000 workers from 18 states. Plans called for the new road to stretch from Middlesex, west of Harrisburg, to Irwin, east of Pittsburgh. Engineers designed the road to have two 12-foot lanes in each direction, with medians, berms, entrance and exit ramps, banked curves, and separated grade crossings. In addition, 6 of the original railway tunnels had to be completed or widened to allow one lane each way. Work on the new road started right away, but the pace was slow. The commission still had to acquire all the right-of-ways. Once the land was acquired, 50 crews built a ribbon of pavement at a rate of 3.5 miles a day. June 1940 came and went, with no end in sight. Then, in September, everything came together. Construction was finished, a ticket-based toll system was created, and a fare schedule was approved. It was time to open the new turnpike. The actual opening happened with little advance notice. On September 30th, the commission announced the turnpike would open just 12 hours later. On October 1st, 1940, 1 minute after midnight. Exactly at that time, the first motorists pulled up to the toll booths in Irwin and Middlesex to receive their brand new yellow tickets. Crowds cheered and tooted their horns. To everyone who attended, it was a grand day in the history of road building in this country. 2.5 million people traveled the turnpike in the first year, more than double predictions. The new highway was a novelty. To be able to travel at top speed with no crossings or stoplights was unheard of. Everyone caught the turnpike fever. Motorists picnicked along the side of the highway. They bought postcards of the road at the new service plazas. Many drove from Middlesex to Irwin and back again for a pleasant Sunday drive. As time passed, the novelty wore off, but the popularity of the road has never died. During the war years in the 1940s, gas and tire rationing kept people close to home. But after the war, they got right back out on the highway. With more and more vehicles using the turnpike every year, the Commission decided to expand the road. In the 1950s, extensions were built to the Ohio border in the west, to the Delaware River in the east, and to Scranton in the north. By the time the turnpike was 20 years old, in 1960, the original highway design using two-lane tunnels had become obsolete. Congestion at the tunnels triggered a large reconstruction plan. 10 years and $100 million later, four-lane tunnels replaced the old ones, and new bypasses avoided other tunnels altogether. Rebuilding and expansion have been key factors in the Commission's strategy for the last few decades. Their goal is to stay ahead of motorists' needs by finding new ways to make the turnpike more accessible and more convenient. Today, the Commission is in the process of rebuilding the original roadway from the ground up, using the latest technologies and safety features. When completed, the turnpike will have 3 lanes in both directions, wider shoulders, new grading, new guide rails, and a new median. This major reconstruction plan also calls for all 17 travel plazas to be torn down and rebuilt. In the early days, they offered Esso gas and a hot meal and ice cream float at Howard Johnson's. In more recent times, the Commission has introduced a variety of fast food restaurants, ATMs, emergency call boxes, and a safety patrol to help stranded motorists. The most popular turnpike service is the Easy Pass, introduced on December 2, 2000. With Easy Pass, drivers pass through a toll booth without having to stop and pay. Regular upgrades to this system continue to help make the turnpike convenient and hassle-free for motorists. From 1940 to today, the Pennsylvania Turnpike has provided an easy way for travelers to cross the state on a single, unrestricted road. The Turnpike is a monument to the road builders of yesterday and today, and to the handful of men who dreamed of creating America's first superhighway.